Okay, so hello and welcome again to Whisky and Cynicism and this week's Desert Island Drams. Really excited to have Mariella Romano from Arran Distilleries joining me today. Mariella, firstly, welcome, and what are you drinking?
Hi there. Thank you for this opportunity. What I'm drinking, I'm well, by the way. Everything is okay. It's actually sunny in Glasgow right now, which is lovely. So I'm boiling hot as well, which is, nice for a change. So I decided to go for something which was quite fruity and light, despite the age. So I'm actually drinking an Arran 21-year-old. Which is a mixture of a handful of sherry casks from 1998, but they're like quite old, by old I mean like, refill sherry casks. So it's not your usual sherry bomb, like dark mahogany sort of looking whiskey. It's more like towards a gentle, oily, tropical fruitiness and like, a little bit of tannins, but not too much. It's not like an overpowered whiskey, which I sort of like. So Slange. What are you drinking?
Very nice. Well, I'm drinking something slightly earlier, but about the same age. It's a 96 Arran. It's a single sherry cask I managed to pick up during my overindulgence in options over lockdown. I think we should probably, just to give a bit of context, so Mariella works at Arran Distilleries Limited, which set up the Arran Distillery at Lagg in 1994. And have since opened a second distillery at Lagg on the south end of the island, Arran's Island off the west coast of Scotland. And Lagg started producing that last year, and that's going to be the peated expression of the two distilleries. So when we're talking about Arran Distillers now, we are actually talking about two different distilleries on the same island. Lagg in the north, which is non-peated, and Lagg in the south, which is peated. That's the kind of very simple way, and I might have got it wrong. So on that, we've got the west coast of Scotland. You've got Arran and as an island, and it's a bit remote, like a lot is, and that kind of fits in with the whiskey narrative: remote, wistful landscapes. But unlike, say, Islay or Speyside and the other kind of more remote regions of whiskey distillation, there's only you guys out there. Do you think that's a benefit, or is that a challenge, having been kind of a lone distiller out on that island?
So I think it's a point of strength, in my opinion, because when I was working for other companies before, I always looked at Arran as I love Arran Distillers. Obviously, at the time there was only one distillery, but I was also very naive, like especially because not living in Scotland, not knowing much about Scotland, you always think of these islands as the most remote places, which sometimes can be, like if you look at Highland Park, or if you look at even Islay, if the weather doesn't it's not in your favor, you can not get to the place that you want to get to. But I think Arran is much more accessible than a lot of other places. Like you can drive down, grab a ferry and just pop over, and you got two options as well, and it's so well connected to the rest of the regions as well. I always tell my customers, you're thinking of coming to Arran, but you're a Springbank fan like everyone else in the world, and you love your peated whiskey, just, do a whole trip around, like just from Glasgow, go to Ayrshire, go to Arran, pop on to Campbelltown, and then take a ferry, go to Islay and come back, which would be like, the best idea, like scenario would be like my favorite itinerary of like, whiskey, pilgrimage to do. So in a way, I think, yeah, they are remote, but not as remote as people think. And also Arran is extremely famous up here for tourism, so you see so many people just going over, because of the beautiful landscapes and just what the sort of nature and views and activities that Arran has to offer. And the distilleries are just there around the corner on the northern part and the southern part, so they're really unmissable as part of the Arran experience, which is great. So since I moved to Glasgow, and now don't consider it that remote anymore. Like right remote for me is like Highland Park, which is like up in Orkney, like not on Arran anymore. But maybe for someone coming from England or flying into Glasgow or Edinburgh, it could be a little bit far away. But nonetheless, the further the journey, the better and more exciting it is when you get there and you get up for the dram. So it's still worth it.
Absolutely, and we were just saying before we started, I've actually never been to Arran, despite living on the west coast for how many years and driving down the Mull Kintyre. I've seen Arran from just about every angle, and it's a gorgeous place. So you've got those two distilleries over there, and obviously Lagg is only been producing for just over a year, probably close to 18 months now, and it's going to be a peated run exclusively. So in a couple of years' time, you'll have whiskey coming to fruition. Are you excited about that new challenge of having a whole new expression coming to the market?
Absolutely. That's like amazing. I think I keep saying I joined the company at just the perfect time. Like it couldn't have been more perfect because we had, a rebrand completely. So now our bottles look, completely different than it looked before. And I really like the new look. We celebrated our 25th anniversary this year. So big milestone for a small independent company. And now we got Lagg, coming through. And there are a lot of side projects as well, like we have orchards, so we're going to experiment with apples, maybe do some smoky brandy, whatever, like in the future. We have barley fields now, we have much more space for warehousing. It's just everything is exciting. Like we tried a lot of peated whiskies before at Locranza. We did our Macrimores before. Now we have these guys like the Fingles Cut as well, which are 50 ppm Locranza whiskey, which are delicious. So it's possibly, it's not really how Lagg is going to be like, because it's a different distillery, but it gives you like, an idea of what we can, what we can get in a few years. On my side as a brand ambassador, I mean, the more the better. Like, give me all the whiskeys, like they're all toys, to play around with. So the more products we bring out, the more exciting it is. We got some Lagg new make at the moment, which is funky. I call it like the mezcal. It's like spicy, smoky, funky, like just delicious. Like I use it, to spice up cocktails, to make it a little bit smoky, or when I fancy something a little bit, tough and strong. But it's so promising, and I'm really looking forward to try the whiskey in a couple of years. So it's gonna be nice.
That Lagg new make, I have tried that along the way. It is very delicious, and I'm very excited to see how it comes to fruition. Mariella's talking about the new range. If no one's kind of seen that, I'm sure you have, but that's Arran's kind of new bottling. The old bottling was, I guess, a little more, not classic, but kind of modern classic, very kind of typical of, say, kind of mid, or maybe even kind of 2000s odd branding. And I will admit, I really didn't like the new branding when I first saw it, especially as a picture. But now that it's come out, I think it's gorgeous. And when you have it in front of you, it's really nice. It's plain. It's got all the info, but it's not like it's not too nutty, too overbearing. I say you were there for the relaunch. Was it, on the whole, do you think it was received well by the whiskey industry, this new labeling?
Yeah, this is a big conversation actually. I'm having it a lot these days with a lot of friends, who wants to, we're looking at designs. People have a stronger, eye for designs now. I think we can all agree. If you go on Malt Maniacs, on Facebook and stuff like that, people talk about labels a lot these days, more than they used to do before. I still think my motto is the truth is in the juice. So I don't really, not that I don't really care much about the outside, but even if you give me like a sample bottle of something amazing, I still drink it because it's awesome. But there is more of a care. It's a whole packaging idea. And a lot of customers were obviously upset because they have this attachment, they've been following us maybe since 1995. We're such a young, distillery. We're only, Locranza is only 25 years old. So there were, people at the ceremony that have been buying whiskeys for 25 years that were attached, to our look. But there were also a lot of people that said, we are a bigger company now, we're older, we're maturing, it's a milestone, and we needed to step up our game as well. As we always say, it's not something that we just thought overnight and then we changed it like that. It was an idea that was going around for a few years now. We wanted to group our whiskey nicely together. We did a lot of different things. Even if you just compare the quarter cask and the wine casks before, different foils, different colors, different textures. So now they look more like a family, which is nice. And it just gave us the chance also to bring out new products, again, more exciting, like the sherry cask, the barrel reserve. So I think it was a 50-50, but if you look back now, people, I think most of us, I like to think that most of us will agree that it was for the better, that we did a great job. And I think that we did a good job, but I'm biased, of course, because, I'm part of the company. But I like to think that, that it's good. But still the same people, still the same, team at the distillery. The liquid is still exactly the same. So even if you are not particularly fond of the new look, rest assured that once you put yourself a glass, the liquid is fantastic anyway. So that's all I can say.
And that is, of course, the main thing. So one of the questions I ask, and everybody knows this, is we will have kind of interesting experiences and pretty wonderful times as a result of whiskey. What's the favorite moment for you working in whiskey where you've find yourself in a situation that was quite amazing, and the only reason you were there was because of whiskey?
You know what? I've been thinking about what to tell you here for like a bit, and I don't actually have an answer. I don't know why. It's because I've been thinking about, oh, what was, you know, the wow moments, but I have so many. So I decided to go, you know, for a non like whiskey moment. It's more like, I don't know how to say it. This is gonna sound so philosophical. I'm gonna cry. It's more like it's more like my life has been around whiskey for so long now, you know, because it's my job, but it's also, I also like it, that I'm actually more uh, wowed by the people that I met and the people that stuck to me thanks to this job. I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes I look at my friends now, like even like my best friend, for example, that I met at a whiskey show in Zurich. It was working on a ram stand, and then, you know, we started talking, and now we go on holiday together and we see each other. I got whiskey, you know, pals that I meet for drams, and it's sometimes you take that for granted. But if I didn't take this path and if it didn't like whiskey so much, I wouldn't have met those people. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's not just a moment. It's more like a lifestyle, if that's a thing.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I talk about a lot the kind of the bonds that are made over whiskey are some of them are unique and not made over other things. And you try to explain it to people as a hobby, which is a difficult one, because normally people have a hobby, and when they do their hobby, they end up with something more. They end up with a model airplane, or they end up with, you know, a knitted scarf. When we have our hobby, we end up with less because we drink it. So we end up with bottles. And it's really hard to explain that to people as a hobby, but there we go.
Yeah, very hard.
Speaking of drinking whiskey, and this is, I guess, the biggest question. If you were to end up on a desert island, I guess a bit like Arran, for the rest of your life, what 3 whiskeys would you take with you to drink for all time?
So that's another thing that I've been thinking about for a while, and I was like, I can go all, you know, nice and easy and just choose, you know, something accessible and stuff, but no, because, you know, I decided if I'm going on a desert island, I might as well just treat myself to, you know, the absolute best that I like. So I'm gonna go ultra geeky here and like select specific bottles that made me, you know, that made me fall in love with whiskey even more. So it's funny also because they kind of follow my journey career-wise. So one of the whiskeys that made me fall in love with whiskey was an SNWS Clynelish. It's just like this Arran 21 was like an old sherry, but I imagine it was like third or fourth fill. So it was very pale, but it was 28 years old, from 1984. It was called Say It With Flowers. So it was like, it was literally waxy, fruity, flowery deliciousness. It was just unreal. And I finished the bottle maybe before lockdown, and I cried, and then I threw it away. And that was definitely, if I could get another 10 of them, that would be, you know, I'd be happy. Another one would be BW5 from Elements of Isla. I have some of the best Bowmore memories from my Elements of Isla time, especially because my boss at the time, Oliver, was a big fan of Bowmores too. So we were like, you know, Bowmore friends. And 1995, 1996 Bowmores, I don't know if you've tried them. They're actually the ones that have been distilled by my production director now, James McTaggart, which is from Bowmore, which is in Bowmore now. So funny that I got to work for a company afterwards and met the guy that made one of my favorite whiskeys, which is awesome. So yeah, BW5, I mixed with a few bourbon casks from 95, I think also 96. So again, mango, tropical fruits all the way, but with salty smokiness, like, which is so lingering and delicious. So it's like very complex for a dram, you know, that gives so much in so many different varieties of flavors, which I absolutely adore. And last but not least, I'm not gonna go for an Arran because, you know, it's too cliche. So I'm gonna go for a Springbank 12-year-old cask strength marriage of 2 bourbon casks that I had from the Campbelltown Whiskey Festival a few years ago, which again is like dirty, smoky, fruity. I just like ultra fruity with a bit of dirt, if you know what I mean. I just like, you know, like very, very fruity and a little bit of salty, smoky dirtiness to it to balance it out. So those would be my 3. Sorry if they're very specific.
No,
I did think about it for a while.
I think you are the first person to go into like that level of detail and not pick a couple of every days, which is nice. And I think Clynelish and Bowmore are quite quite prevalent so far. But anyway, I won't take any much of your time, Mariella. Thank you so much for catching up with me. That was a really good chat and a great 3 Desert Island Drams. And I hope to catch up with you in real life again as soon as we can and as soon as all this is over. Slanjava.
Yeah, I hope that too. Cheers. Thank you very much.